Welcome to Life in Balance, a new podcast. And today I have somebody very special with me as my dear guest. We have Claudine, and she is a beautiful soul who, in a way, had a similar path like me from the corporate space into a health space. So she is a board certified functional medicine and holistic health practitioner and master problem solving. And she's so passionate about helping women create a long lasting changes in their health and in their life. But she was a CFO before she became a holistic health practitioner. So what am I very curious is to hear her story firsthand so she can share how that journey began and why from the CFO and from the corporate space, she went into a holistic health healing. Claudine, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Now, I love telling stories and I love my guests on my podcast to tell their story. What happened for them to transform their life as, as I already mentioned, from you being a CFO in the corporate side, climbing that corporate ladder to all of a sudden completely shift the careers and be in the health and wellness space, helping women to thrive. What's our story so we can get to know you a bit better?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the typical transition, is it? Going from accounting to health and wellness. And usually what happens for most people found that become functional medicine practitioners is we have had a health issue ourselves. That's typically how it goes.
Yes, exactly.
As you said, I was in corporate America. I was in accounting. And as many people who are in corporate or accounting know, there are usually a lot of deadlines. There's a lot of pressure. It's a go, get everything done. Basically, fill your blood for the company in whatever way they ask you to.
Know that quite well for 15 years.
Yes. And in the beginning, it was exciting, right? Because you have these bursts of stress, which can be exciting. Like, oh, your adrenaline's going, your cortisol spikes, and you need to get everything done before the deadline. And then the deadline's over and you can relax. In my 20s, that was really fun. But after a while, it starts to take a toll on your body because cortisol is what we call catabolic. So it's actually breaking your body down to keep you with energy. And so after my second child, I started to know that things were not going well in my body. But even though I thought I ate healthy, even though I was exercising quite a bit, this is the point where I became the CFO of a multinational produce company. So I was overseeing, I'm in California and I was overseeing people in Chile and Canada and New Jersey. When, 5 a.m., my phone started ringing. And it was just constant stressful. There was a lot of undermining going on. What does a blonde California girl know about?
Yeah.
So that started to take a toll, and I started to get constant migraine. So my kids were little, and I was really during the week because I'd be gone at 7 when they woke up. I'd maybe see them for a half hour at night before they went to bed. But the only time I got with them was on the weekends. And unfortunately, by then, I'd have a migraine. So I had the migraines. I was gaining weight, which didn't make sense given how much I worked. I was really sluggish and tired, foggy brain. I was really irritable. And it got to the point where I went to my doctor. And I said, listen, I have these migraines. What can you do? And they say, oh, take this pill. I'm like, okay. So I go home and I take the pill. But the problem is with my migraines, I can't keep anything down, not even water. So I'd take the pill and it will come back up. So I went back and they said, oh, here's an anti-nausea pill. Take this first. Okay. So take the anti-nausea pill, same thing. Great. And they said, oh, put it in the other end. And at that point, I'm going,
hey, sorry, what does it mean? Put it in the other end. Oh my God.
Not in my mouth, in the other side. And I was like, how do we figure out why I'm getting the migraine rather than just giving me all these pills? And that's when, of course, I turned to medicine. I found someone who did functional medicine. And I got better by following a protocol. And that kind of set the stage because I realized corporate was killing me. There are a lot of people I know who are slowly dying from the inside out.
Yeah.
The stress that they're under. And I didn't do what I was doing anymore. So basically, eventually I moved into functional medicine myself and I started helping people with me.
Amazing. Now, before we start digging deep really into gut and brain connection and how it works, what I would love for you to tell me is that when you started following that protocol, what was like, let's say, the first initial thing you started noticing inside of your body, energy in general, that kept you going in sense of a fall? Because what I found with a lot of generally talk to and my clients is a lot of the times at the beginning of any kind of protocol, there is a lot of things we need to, in a way, let go from our lives, like the type of diet, the type of food, and everything else. That first step is very difficult and challenging for all of us, me included as well. I always say it's the biggest challenge to try to pretty much stop eating or drinking the things that you are used to for years if you're happy. So I would love for just you to tell us a story. What was the most challenging part at the beginning for you when you were starting to do the protocol? What was the end goal and what was the most challenging part?
I mean, the end goal was to not get the migraines and not to feel so sluggish all
Yeah.
the time, right? And I will say so I went through a few different protocols. I can't say that I was quote unquote fit the first time because even though physically we repaired things that needed to be repaired, I hadn't changed my meds, right? So I ended up back there again.
Yes.
And I think for me, what made the big difference is the transfer. Because in between, I truncated my story, but in between leaving corporate, starting with functional medicine practitioner, I did health coaching. And the thing I didn't love about health coaching was that I didn't have data. I didn't
Yeah.
have test results. And that's what I love about functional medicine. I'm essentially instead of doing strategy for business needs, which is what I used to do, I'm now doing strategy for people.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And
Yes, it makes
I love the scientific part of it, that I can plot these points down on a graph and you can see your progress and you can see what your lifestyle is doing to you.
Yeah.
A lot of people, let's you take, I don't know, gluten. Because gluten is a big one here in the US. Our wheat is
A
terrible.
big one.
Yeah, ours is just it's genetically modified. It's all the pesticides on it. Like it's basically a toxin. But
Yeah.
it's so ingrained in our culture, right? Breaking bread. I mean, it's just
What are you talking about? Like you're insane. I'm out of here. Pretty much.
yeah. So when I
Yeah.
run people's labs and we can see that there's several ways that we can see the impact of gluten on someone's body. One is how their immune system is responding to it. There is a marker called anti-gliadin, which is the protein found in wheat. And it's one of the markers that tells us your immune system is having an adverse reaction to wheat. And so people see on the lab, you're eat wheat, it's freaking out on the inside. Another thing, leaky gut. There's some people, like, doctor doesn't believe in leaky gut. I'm like, well, then your doctor must have got finished medical school in 2002 when they found the zonulin protein while studying the Ebola outbreak. And they discovered this is the chemical that your body excretes when creating, opening up the tight junctions, creating the leaky gut.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can see these markers, and essentially that's what I do for my clients is I show them this is what your lifestyle is doing. So if you want XYZ thing fixed, which is what you're coming to me for, this is how we do it. And then of course, helping them down that road because gluten especially can be a big transition for some people if they aren't already doing it. And so when you're basically retraining them how to eat.
Exactly. Exactly. Especially if they're all of their life, they've been eating cereals and, cereals and bread and toast and jam and all of these things. And all of a sudden, no, we need to retrain that habit to become a completely new habit. And as we said, at least a month or two it takes for our brain to understand that we change that habit. And that's the key point in anything we change. But I love how you shared in it that before, CFO to coming to being a practitioner, you've done the coaching in between, you went, through these phases of following the certain protocol, then flipped and then coming back, because that's what something that I really am passionate about in sharing in my own journey is that it's not just about, okay, we're going to stick to this one thing because it's hard, it is challenging. And usually when humans are pressed to a very difficult challenge, we tend to slip multiple times until it literally, hits us to the wall, say, okay, you need relief. So that's why it's very important for us to share so people can relate and understand that it's not a smooth ride. Is there anything in our life? It has ups and downs, and but as long as you come back to it, that's the biggest thing. It's a progress, one step at a time.
That's a really good point because I had to get to the point where I saw a future state and all I saw was migraine. I had to associate that food with the pain in order for me to realize that's not for me.
Yeah,
That food is just not for me because I know what it's going to do. And I know
exactly. Exactly. And it's the same thing. You try it over and over because you like it, but then you come to that threshold and you say, look, at least that's what I do. I know the taste of that food and I know the consequences of this food. So thank you, but I would rather, get something else. But a lot of the times it takes too many attempts for us to really truly understand, okay, we can't really have that, especially that's something that it makes us feel good in that particular moment. And then we're like, oh, I would rather get that pleasure and I will leave the pain for later. But if pain kicks in like after 2 hours, there is no point of getting that pleasure.
right.
Yeah, beautiful point. So my question that I have for you, sorry, you've mentioned that chronic stress has a very big impact on neurotransmitters and our gut health. Can you give me an example and give me a bit of an explanation on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way it works is cortisol, which is the stress hormone, is king. So if you think about how cortisol developed in your body, it is designed to help us run away from the threat. So a lot of people like to think of, the running away from the tiger scenario.
Yeah.
We need to survive. We have to run away from this tiger as quickly as possible. So your body gives you this huge rush of energy via cortisol so that you can get away as fast as you can. Now, in order for it to do that, it is taking away energy from all of the other systems. So when cortisol is on, digestion is off, hormone production is off, which is why you'll sometimes see people not be able to have children when they're in their
Yeah. Yeah.
Your immune system is turned off. Basically, everything's off, right? There's not everything else is off. Yeah. Cortisol's on, everything is off. It's like a light switch, right?
Yeah.
You have to switch them back if you want everything else to work. So when it comes to gut health, when you're stressed, you may still be eating food, but that food is not getting broken down because your body is not releasing hydrochloric acid, stomach acid to break it down. So then it goes to your smile intestine where it's supposed to be small enough to be absorbed and get new immune system's like, whoa. What is that? That's not food. That's what that is. Food. And so it reacts, it creates a little histamine bubble around it, which is inflammation. And then it shuttles it off to your liver and then it backs your liver up, which causes a whole other cascade of problems. So stress, I was going to say jacking up. It's like jacking up the whole thing. It's a technical term.
Yeah. Practical.
But it does, it hijacks your whole body because nothing else is getting done. And the problem with that when it comes to your brain is that 90% of our neurotransmitters, so our serotonin, our dopamine, our GABA, even melatonin, 80 to 90% of those made in the gut. Now, if your gut is not functioning, your brain is not functioning. So a lot of people will have symptoms like anxiety, depression, or insomnia, apathy. Their brain just is not, some people will get ADHD or ADD because of their gut. That's,
Yeah.
that's something that's traditionally not linked in modern medicine.
Mhm. Wow, that really is a huge insight in how that works. Because I always say to anybody I talk to personally, gut brain gut connection is so big we don't even necessarily understand. Because of- in a lot of today's modern world, when we tell stress and we talk about the stress, I know it myself. We always blame the outside influence, the work, the kid, the husband, the family, the situations. All of them are true. And, all of that can happen. But the thing is that if we are not looking inside first, then all of these stressors will literally come as a cherry on the top to cause even more stress. What I love is that you touched on two very dear to my heart points, and that's first that the people who are under can't have children. My brother is in that position. He and his wife have another medical history and things like that. But I feel that for them being 10 years in the process of trying to have a child, that trait also has a big impact of unfortunately that's not happening. So it happened in my own life. Like I remember when we conceived our first child, it happened like that because we were relaxed, honeymoon, everything was fine. With my baby girl, I was stressing out. I wanted different things and nothing was happening for 6 months until my husband just said, "Oh, just give up your expectation or whatever you're having in your own head." I desperately wanted a girl and I desperately was trying to find how to get a girl. But that was straight away. Once I just said it, if it happens, it happens. I got pregnant straight away. Like there was no problem. So for me personally, living that experience, I knew it how much stress can impact of actually conceiving because your body doesn't want another human being if it's already alerted and if it's already under so much pressure trying to literally survive because all of the stressors there happen, as you said, come from the danger. So, and really with also with ADHD because my boy has been diagnosed with that. And the thing is, I am helping him go through now this health journey and going to see a health practitioners where they take his blood and he's able to see. I couldn't, a 9 year old, even though I tried, everything possible to help him with the diet. But being a stubborn 9 year old boy, he wants, of course, everything that's not okay for his body. And then when the health practitioner showed him the results, his blood was so thick it was so thick, shock. Why? Because he didn't want to drink water, no matter how much I tried and effort or all of these small things. And that's when he started saying, "Oh, okay, this is what I need to be doing." So in all of these things, the day gut is the key for everything that we need to start changing first.
And to your point, when your body's stressed on the inside, it's kind of a circular formula, right? You have the external stress, which messes up your gut, which messes up everything else, and then that in and of itself puts pressure on your body. And so until you break the cycle, it just continues to go.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is the thing. One thing that a lot of people don't really realize is that close connection between the brain and the gut. So can you dive into that brain gut connection more deeply and explain it? Because I truly want for our audience to understand how closely they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I kind of mentioned earlier how 90% of a lot of the neurotransmitters are made in the gut. So serotonin, dopamine, GABA, about 80% of melatonin is made in the gut. So when people have insomnia is one of the first places we look. So what happens in stress reduces gut function, like we talked about. And that causes inflammation. And when you have inflammation and you have stress that's reducing our immune function, you then get this bacterial imbalance. So we want to have a certain balance of good to bad bacteria. But what happens when we're stressed is that all the good bacteria die off. We're not getting the nutrients they need. And the bacteria out. Because if you think of the immune system is kind of like the bouncer after the door of the club. So if the immune system is turned off, the bouncer's on break, pretty much anybody can come in. You have the bad bacteria coming in, you can invite all their friends, the parasites, so you can have pathogens, viruses. I mean, it's a party here. Yeah, it's a party of the people you do not want. Characters you really don't want. So that'll create inflammation. And that inflammation ends up creating brain fog, anxiety, mood swings. And then that chronic stress diverts energy away from digestion, which leads to that gastric distress, bloated gut, leaky gut. And then, as we were talking about a minute ago, when the gut is stressed, the body is stressed. That impacts your liver, your hormones, your neurotransmitters, and it's a vicious cycle.
Exactly.
So it's address the gut. We have to do several things, right? It's kind of like if you have a boat that has a hole in it. Yes, you need to pull out the water, but you also have to stop the hole.
You will be keeping not possible. We know how Titanic enough. You have to.
So yes, we have to make sure you're getting good nutrients, and we also have to stop the stress process. And by stopping the stress process, I know a lot of people will hear this and say, I cannot be stressed. I don't like being stressful. But it is about how you release the stress. Like find and release it, because you can't change. Well, some things we can change, right? I have a lot of women that I work with who could be better at holding boundaries. They could be better.
We all do.
And we could be better at not taking on every single project and raising our hands for everything and saying yes all the time. We could say no more. But when it comes to certain things, like we had a death in the family recently. We can't change that. I don't have any control over when people die.
Exactly.
Or certain other things, like if you political situation, like how much control do I have? Like there are only certain things I can control. And so having that mindset of finding ways I can unwind, I can let go, I can support myself, my physical self and my mental, emotional self, that can go a long way helping your at least have an environment where like it can be repaired.
Beautiful. I just love for us to really touch base because when you said that, especially us women, I feel it's our trend to not being able to say no and not being able to set those boundaries really firm, because firstly on ourselves. So that yes culture, in a way, people pleasing culture creates additional stress with every already have in our life. We put that as a top of our priority. So when that happens and when the stress is literally overflowing, when people come and see you, especially women, when they come to see what are some of the most common nutrient deficiencies or imbalances that you see when women are dealing with the chronic stress?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. So there's a test we run called the HTMA. It's a hair test. And that's the first one I run for everyone because it stands for hair tissue mineral analysis. And the reason that's important is because our body is filled with minerals that are like the little tugboat, right? They have ships, but they get the ships to where they need to go. So if your minerals are not there, if they're on strike, nobody's getting to where it needs to go. Right? So we need to make sure you have enough, especially things for, which are calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. And what I typically see when it's chronically stressed is one of two things. They either are in they are so stressed out, chronically stressed, that their body is pulling calcium out of the bones and throwing it in the soft tissue, creating problems like joint pain, like calcium to start mineral, or calcification of the arteries, which can cause high blood pressure. Some people get kidney stones or gallstones. So I either see that, yes, it can, and if it can happen for too long, that poking of the calcium out of the bones, absolutely, and we get.
Exactly.
So I either see that, or I see someone who has depleted mineral or just pink.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I see, like from the HTMA. The other thing I'll see is on the, you may have heard of the dust, which is not, it's the, it's good for dried urine, and comprehensive hormones.
Oh, wow. Oh, interesting. I've never heard it because I don't think here in Australia we're those kind of tests. Interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah, well, you can actually do them anywhere because I have had clients in Australia and we just send them to the lab here. But this one is dried urine, and it tells us not only your hormone level, really important, tells us your cortisol level. And so here, and it's been the blood test. This is one snapshot in time. Whereas this test, it's 4 different samples in a graph. It's very specific to this day, so we can see, because your cortisol is supposed to be highest in the morning when you wake up, and then gradually drop down at lunch, more gradual slope till dinner, so that your cortisol is off and your melatonin will be on. But for some people, they'll have a huge spike in the morning because they're stressed out already. For other people who have been chronically stressed for very long, sometimes they'll be flatlined and they have no energy because they have no cortisol. We need some measure of cortisol to get us through the day. And so for people who have used their cortisol up to the point where their adrenals are completely tapped out, they will have that flatline effect. And then the map is the gut marker map or street marker test. And I'm not supposed to have favorite for the children, right? You're not supposed to have favorite. But we always do it. But this says it's 85 markers as to what's going on in your gut. So, and one of those is the immune system marker. So I can see if your immune system is, it's called SIG-A, secretory IgA. If that marker is high, and I can see that your body is responding to something, it's like on high alert right now. Like all the bouncers, the mob is rushing the door, the bouncers are like up at the door, like trying to keep everybody out. Or people who've been dealing with something for a very long time, your immune marker, their SIG-A will be so low because like it just like the bouncers got tired. They couldn't hold the door open any longer or close any longer. And they're like, I'm done. I'm out.
I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah. And then of course, once you start having that problem, you start to see other markers in the gut. You start to see the higher bad bacteria. You start to see more pathogens come in. So those are the main tests that I run that I can actually see the physical effects of chronic stress on someone's body.
Oh, I think that we are so privileged and lucky that we are able to have all of these tests done. So because we know 70% of the population is very, we forget on how to actually fix our gut. When something is off and when we feel, that feeling that comes is off, we will rather listen to our mind because we are analytical. It's a funny thing that you can't really trust your gut if your gut is not well. So we need to start thinking as the gut as our literally primary source of all of the information that's coming in. Those feelings, the sensations, if it's our balance, it won't give us that information that we need in a specific time. Because I remember I was listening to a podcast that was talking about that. I'm not sure if you heard it about Mogodat. He talks about happiness is a choice, and he's very big in strength community. He wrote a book that's called Unstressable, and he was sharing about this research where they wanted to see how much the power gut has with recognize danger or pleasurable situation. So they put there was a cap on people's brains, and they were putting different pictures in front of them. They noticed in the research that and even had the sensation 5 seconds before the actual picture came in on what the picture is going to be about. Is it going to be stressful, relaxing, or anything like that? That's when they wanted to show how strong our gut intuition is when we are, trying to sense that danger. But then we constantly say that our gut is unfortunately full of toxins. It won't send fast, fast enough those transmitters inside of our brain to tell us, look, something is off. We need to move, or whatever that sensation is. So with parents, well, parents as well, mothers and women, to tell me something. This is what I would really love to for me to know is when somebody comes to see you, either on Zoom or physically, can you check out from how they're like standing or looking or their skin or anything like that from the years of practicing? What's probably the most thing that's happening inside of their body? Can you sense? Can your gut tell you like an inside of what's going on?
It's funny that you say that because my husband and I went to my son's band performance a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
and we're sitting there and I'm watching people. And I'm not working, right? I'm at my kid's band performance, and I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting here going, and like, not nice. Where is my brain?
It's sheer the contrary.
I know. Focus on the music.
Yeah. That oh dear God. When not even what kind of work we are, it's like that shift of when you want to try and help people constantly in a way alert, which is also not really good for them. So let's be honest here. So tell me, you can notice that like estrogen dominance or blood issue challenges. How do you notice those kind of things?
Well, the estrogen dominance, I'm usually noticing it in that's usually a
Uh-huh.
sign they have estrogen dominance. When they
I understand.
the blood sugar imbalance is usually more of a body composition thing. When we have sugar imbalance, I believe that we are eating too many carbs throughout the
Yes.
day, or we're eating too often. And so if you peaks and then it drops, and it creates this body composition extra, right? Like a little
Mhm.
extra, a little
Thingy on the side here.
yeah, have things like the calcium shell, which is we were talking about. It reminded me of the calcium shell with regards to that. The way we react to certain people, like calcium shell. I used to say I had no feelings. I would say there's no crying in accounting. I have no feelings. And that was because I had this calcium shell that was pulling I was so stressed, it was pulling calcium out of my bones, sticking in my top tissue. But it was
Yeah.
basically a trauma response. My body was not, it was keeping me from feeling because feeling was too much,
Yeah.
right? It was
Yeah.
too hard. Uh, so some people, depending on their personality, you might be able to see a little bit of that calcium shell. Like if they're like not emotional, like I don't have emotions. I'm super anger. Right. You're the only emotional calcium shell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, actually, this conversation is about to ask you, because, so listen to, another podcast a couple of weeks ago where, they really talked about the connection between stress and belly fat. So how does that connect to another? You touched base at the beginning. We're not able to digest food. And then when the food comes into our system, it's not properly digested, but we don't actually get it out because they are very big lumps of food that stuck in the different parts of our body. Why belly? Like why is it attached out of the and this well, so it's in our metabolism, in our structure, however you want to call it.
Because it's safe there. Our body puts the extra fat in our belly area because it's safe. And it's easy to
Yeah.
grab if it needs it because basically, like this stress response is going to force our body to hold onto the weight for dear life, put it somewhere it can easily get it if we need to run away from that tiger again. Into our abdomen area is a logical, easy place to get it. So if it's like on your big toe or on your pinky finger, that's not really gets you, but your belly, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll put it all there.
Yeah, just okay, hello. No, let's have it a bit there and a bit there. No, just check it. Yeah, it makes sense, of course. But then, like you saying, that it happened with me, and this is why I love talking about this especially this topic. It's because no matter how clean, and I went from vegan, paleo, keto, I don't know what diet I didn't try or I didn't do because I was in a way trying to escape fear. And fear is our biggest stressor, our biggest trigger is because both of my parents passed away from degenerative diseases in 3 years' time. It got that fear that, oh my God, something bad is going to happen to me. I need to change everything inside of my life. I need to start controlling everything in order for me to get healthy. But that also created so much unknown stress that I wasn't aware of that I called it now a health phobia for me personally is because that then created this ripple effect where I ate good food, but no matter how good food there was, it wasn't digesting. My body was under the constant stress. And I started, as I said, gaining this, a little bit of weight, still about a this, and I started feeling very anxious and fatigued. And like, what's going on? I'm like, this is something that I'm doing good, but I'm having all of these symptoms, all of these health issues and everything. And that's where I realized that subconsciously it was all about the amount of stress I was putting on the, healthy and trying to eat as healthy as possible and the cleanest as possible. So when people come to you, usually probably because they have different challenges, but you're like, let's say first 2 or 3 steps, you help them and you advise them to start reducing that stress, to start eating better food. So we are not overwhelming them like I was overwhelmed at the beginning of my journey.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And what I do, I have a really inclusive intake system. So I review everything and then I pick the top 3 things.
Yeah.
So some people come to me, they've already gone gluten free, right? They've done the clean thing and they're like,
Yeah.
it's not working. So maybe for them, it is working on finding time for themselves to just eat. Like maybe they need to walk in the
Yeah.
nature. Maybe they need to do some meditation. Maybe they need to do a detox bath, just something where they can let their brain chill
Mhm.
and let their nervous system settle. Because a lot of us are so used to being in fight or flight all the time. It can be hard to know how to relax. I actually, several years ago, I Googled how to relax. I didn't know, right?
Sorry, they tried to think about doing that.
How do you relax? Relax. So some people put that is the primary focus. And those who are eating foods that are actively damaging their bodies, we scare step it, right? Because one's going to be able to completely change their diet all at once.
Yeah.
So maybe
Yeah.
we take one thing like, what is the easy to take out? Is it dairy? Is it refined sugar? Maybe it's alcohol. And we taper that down, and so we're not eating that thing anymore. And of course,
Yeah.
I spent so many years trying to learn how to cook without gluten, dairy, refined sugar, that I have a whole cache of recipes because I'm half Polish, and our job is to feed the world. So I couldn't.
Well, Serbia, let's see the entire planet if possible.
Obviously, right?
Actually, that's good.
Yeah.
We're fixing it.
So I pretty much have a substitute for everything. And it's actually so much easier as 12, 13 years ago when I started,
Oh,
because there are so many good quality gluten free that people can go to. I mean, just the amount of pasta. You should not get gluten free pasta.
no,
You're
no. It's like,
get it.
what? What's that? I don't know what that is, but it's fake.
Yeah.
That'll be 10 to 15 years ago. I don't accept. You talk to Italian, he will literally shut you off off the window.
Yeah. The one thing that's super easy in addition to making sure people are getting enough sleep, right? Making sure they're doing something to de-stress, drinking enough water. A lot of my clients will need what I call an adrenal cocktail. So for people who, and this is not for people who have high blood sugar, excuse me, for people who have high blood pressure. If you have high blood pressure, do not listen to what I'm about to say. But for most of us who are depleted, our adrenals are tapping, like our adrenals have been on high alert for so long that now they're just gone. So I 4 cups of water, add a quarter teaspoon of a high mineralized salt, like a Celtic salt or a red one salt, a quarter teaspoon of cream of tartar. This is the potassium, and a squeeze of a half a lemon.
Yeah.
That's your sodium, your potassium, and your vitamin C, and those are going to level up your little adrenals. Add that twice a day, and I have a lot anymore. I have an adrenal cocktail, and I'm like, yeah.
That's beautiful. When you mentioned that, it's my mind, especially in the morning. But instead of cream of tartar, I actually have potassium, like a supplement, a powder supplement that can also be put it in there. But I really want to touch base because this is very crucial for our audience to know the quality of the water. And the reason why we need to be putting things in the water is because unfortunately the water is not the same as it was 50 or 60 years ago. Like it definitely full of chemicals, chlorine, who knows what. So I would love to, touch base a little bit on that in sense of, where they can get a good, either filtrated system or what to buy if they don't have it, or how to treat the water to actually give it a life because it's feeding us. 70% of our body is water.
That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up because one of the first things I ask is, do you have a water filter and what kind? Because a lot of people will say, oh yeah, I have a filter in the fridge. And I'm like, that does not count. I'm sorry, that is not. And they forget about the shower, right? We dip the filter on the shower. So when it comes to filtering our drinking water, there are a couple places that we can get in the States. I'm not sure if you can get them where you are. Like everyone in my family, my sisters, my parents, they all have the problem to stand up on your countertop.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go through the whole hassle of getting an underneath filter. Pure Effect has some good ones. Pro One, I believe it is, has some good ones. So they're called gravity filters. I have under this tank pulled out all the impurities. Then if you don't add back minerals, then you have to add back like a trace mineral complex.
Exactly.
For my clients, I do a personalized mineral formula that they take like a vitamin, but it's in powder form. Need a way to put your, because yes, when you're sleeping, you also need to remineralize.
Exactly. How this is two things that I would love to also when we are on topic of water. When a client comes to you and they literally say, I hate drinking water, it's so boring. That's shit I don't have any only time. How do you help them get that in a forefront and, really start helping them to understand that it doesn't have to be boring, but it's a necessity. Like, you go to work because it's a necessity, time your business because it's a necessity. So if it's not a necessity, you will die if you don't do it. So how do you help them with that challenge?
Well, the good thing about the adrenal cocktail is that if you're doing, depending on your weight, right, you want to have half your body weight in ounces of water. So if you're 200 pounds, you have 100 ounces of water per day.
Yeah.
So if you're doing 240-ounce adrenal cocktails, you're pretty much there. And the nice thing about the adrenal cocktails is it's flavored. I don't like lime, so we'll use something else. Like I have one client who prefers lime. We have another who prefers orange. Some people will like put frozen berries at the bottom of their water, or even just something to flavor it. We find a way to make it palatable. And when they see those lab results, they see the HTMA test showing that their sodium and potassium is so low. And then I go over what that's doing to their body. That increases the incentive.
Yeah. Especially, so when they do the first test, how long after you do the follow-up testings?
So it depends on the person. So usually when we're working together, a full protocol can take 6 months because
Beautiful.
once you get to the client work, you have to do the remineralizing, we do the hormone testing, then we do the gut. And the gut work itself can take 3 to 4 months because if you're dealing with pathogens, parasites, you know, you're not absorbing nutrients, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah.
So typically, if somebody feels better, they may or may not want to retest. I love data, so I will always retest. I retest myself every year. But some people will want to retest because they want to see the difference between where they started and where they ended. Well, if they're feeling better, I don't need to retest. I'm good. So it really depends on the
Yeah.
person.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I just want to say that I so enjoyed our conversation today. It's full of all of these little bits and insights, and I do hope that our listeners who are coming and having to listen to our podcast that are going to be firstly having so much fun of learning all of these new things, but also being able to understand how important it is to actually look after ourselves and thinking, oh my God, I have migraines every day. I feel fatigued. I'm anxious. I'm snapping at my kids and my husband all the time. Everybody's annoying me in my work and all of that. To understand that there is two places the stress will come in from the outside, but from the inside as well. And the first place we do have a control of is that inside of our body. Because a lot of the times the outside stressors are not in our control. We can't control other people. We can't control the weather. We can't control the stock market or anything like that. That those of all of our stressors, they're outside of us. The only thing we can control is how we look after ourselves in our body. So is there any last wisdom or things you want to love to share with my audience today?
I love what you just said. I would continue on with that thought and say you cannot control the things outside of your experience, but you can control how you react to them. And to your point, how you take care of yourself. So remember to put yourself first, even though it might feel weird.
I don't.
They know what you need to say now because you cannot help if you are not well yourself.
Beautiful. Where can my audience find you? Can you share your website? And we'll definitely put it on YouTube and on my podcast so people can find you.
Absolutely. My website is ingoodclean.com, or they can find me on Instagram at claudine.ard.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast today. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I'm so looking forward to sharing this amazing, very powerful podcast to all of my audience. So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for